The modern world is one of information overload. In the naive past, things like newspaper and later television gave most people relatively similar, curated information. Today, though decentralization has freed us from the grips of government and corporate propaganda, the amount of information and the number of lenses through which we could view it is practically infinite. Social media algorithms tailor the information we see to manipulate our attention, ultimately resulting in completely fractured views given to different individuals. The traditional heuristics our brains evolved to use can't reason properly in such a setting, as the information tailored to us isn't even close to representative of the whole infinite picture. As traditional social values have deteriorated, people who have strayed in opposite directions are yet able to find and hate each other, resulting in pointless online wars about religion and culture. Even further, internet users feeding off different information streams can argue for days about the simple facts of an event. So limited is our ability to reason in this infinite setting. As the number of different realities increases, and the warlike behavior to protect them goes up, fewer young people seem willing to participate in the whole charade at all. The more Gen Z is engulfed by the noise, the more intimidating it seems to hold solid frameworks or ideologies, especially to those who feel insecure in their surroundings. Growing up within the infinite information, seeing the conflict caused by trying to hold just one belief, it may seem more reasonable to try something else. Thus, while many have waged war to hold on to their beliefs, a large portion of the youngest generation has hoped to abandon them entirely, in hopes of ending the conflict. There are a few ways of trying this, practiced by select numbers in the older generations for many years. One view popular among the millennials was good old-fashioned nihilism, the belief in nothing. The problem with such a silly approach is that believing in nothing counts as believing in something. People who see the world as strongly meaningful can disagree with your belief in nothing, so while surrendering in this way may have given your sense-making organs a bit of comfort, the conflicts haven't actually gone away. With that ruled out, those of us overwhelmed by the criticism and noise have a relatively simple alternative. Superposition. Remain completely confused in your inner world, truly overwhelmed by the information stream, but speak and act in such a way that anyone who stumbles upon you can be convinced that you're on their side. Methods used by public figures of older generations help achieve this result. Vague and broad language, personal anonymity, and tools like meta-irony can be used to hide the fact that you believe nothing. That you've become so desensitized to the infinite information you grew up in that you have no way of making sense of the world and can only hope to avoid the meaningless conflicts that surround you. That you have no drive or purpose in life outside this goal, since what other social or moral framework could ever lead you to act?
What if I want to just remain an amorphous blob, ever-changing, impossible to pin down or criticize?
Don't forget impossible to love, son.
This clearly isn't enough. This superposition clearly isn't how humans were meant to live. First, you'd be fooling yourself if you thought you could truly become ambiguous about everything. Even if you managed to take an ambiguous stance on every possible social, moral, and political issue, this act of seeking ambiguity itself makes implicit value judgments, postulates that others might disagree with. Since even this does count as a belief, an oversimplified, narcissistic one that's honestly pretty unlikable, we can't completely stop criticism or wrongness. But at every point we cop out of reasoning, expressing nothing but empty statements, surrendering to the noise, we do make it impossible to be right. With every decision we avoid, we lose another source of hope and purpose. And if we do reach the point where we lack true morals, guidance on the most basic parts of being human, we've made it impossible to be loved or understood by any other human being. Confusion about parts of our identities is a natural part of growing up, but the fear of criticism and filleting of words that extends extreme ambiguous superposition, not so much. Though sense-making has become hard, and communication between the ideologically driven appears to have become warlike, you can't just surrender to the noise. When you take a stance, you're sometimes going to be wrong. Sometimes you'll actually be right, and people will hate you anyway. But you'll be able to act. And to learn from your mistakes, you first have to be willing to make them. Here's an idea for a framework. Decide on some social and moral values, maybe throw some political stances in there too, but be willing to adjust your framework as time moves on. On those topics where you truly are unsure, be honest about it, and work with those around you to find answers. Disagree with people. Accept that others will disagree with you. Use all the tools at your disposal to try to make sense of the world, because such sense-making tools do exist. But respect those whose tools have sent them on different paths. Respect them as human beings, so as not to send them down the path of ambiguity and nothingness that you once walked. In the end, you can never truly avoid all criticism. But that's okay. Make friends. Actively search for meaning, or create your own. Understand that criticism isn't everything. That the most important thing is something to live for. That's a Gen Z philosophy.